For thousands of years, the golden sands of Egypt have whispered secrets of ancient kingdoms, buried cities, and civilizations erased from memory. What if I told you that the story of Egypt is far greater than the pyramids, more mysterious than the Sphinx, and more haunting than the Valley of the Kings? That beneath the endless dunes lies a forgotten world, a world swallowed by time itself. Welcome to World's Echoes, where history speaks through silence, and mysteries come alive. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe, because what you're about to hear will change the way you see Egypt forever. When most people think of ancient Egypt, their minds jump straight to pharaohs wrapped in gold, towering pyramids stretching toward the heavens, or hieroglyphs carved into stone. But Egypt's deserts hold far more than monuments. Beneath the scorching sands lie traces of entire civilizations that existed long before the pyramids, before even the first dynasties that carved their names into history. Civilizations that thrived, struggled, and then vanished, leaving almost nothing behind. The desert is both a destroyer and a preserver, erasing homes, villages, and temples, yet protecting fragile relics from the passage of time. Imagine the countless footsteps lost forever, the voices silenced by shifting dunes. What stories would they tell us if only we could hear them again? Picture this. You're standing in the heart of the Egyptian desert. The sun beats down, the horizon shimmers, and all you see is emptiness. Yet beneath your feet, just a few meters under the sand, lies a buried city that once pulsed with life. Streets where merchants traded spices, temples where priests performed sacred rituals, homes filled with families long gone. Today, those places are nothing but hollow spaces swallowed by sand. The silence is deafening, and the air feels heavy, as though time itself has been suspended. It makes you wonder how many forgotten worlds are still hidden beneath Egypt's deserts. The story begins not with the pharaohs we know, but with people who came long before them. Thousands of years ago, before the Nile became the cradle of Egyptian civilization, this land was green. Yes, Egypt wasn't always endless desert. Once, it was fertile grasslands, dotted with lakes and rivers, rich with wildlife. Early humans hunted, gathered, and built small communities here, living in ways we can hardly imagine now. Over time, climate shifted. The land dried, the grass withered, and the sand began its slow, inevitable march. As the Sahara expanded, villages were swallowed, and what remained was left to vanish under the desert's relentless tide. But sometimes, the desert gives back its secrets. Archaeologists, digging in the most unlikely places, have uncovered remnants of cultures lost to history. Tools made of stone, pottery shards, skeletons preserved for millennia. Each discovery tells us that Egypt's story didn't start with pyramids, it started with forgotten peoples who lived and died before anyone carved their names into stone. Their civilizations, erased by sand, still echo faintly through the artifacts they left behind. And then there are the great cities swallowed whole. One of the most haunting stories is that of Heracleion, also known as Thonis, a city once thriving at the mouth of the Nile. For centuries, it was a bustling port, Egypt's gateway to the Mediterranean. Traders from across the ancient world sailed into its harbors, bringing goods, ideas, and cultures. But one day, disaster struck. The earth beneath Heracleion gave way, and the entire city sank into the sea. For over 1,000 years, it was thought to be a myth, until divers discovered its ruins beneath the waters of the Mediterranean. Statues taller than a man, temple columns, coins, jewelry, all preserved in the silence of the deep. Imagine the shock of realizing an entire city, once alive with people, had vanished beneath the waves, waiting centuries to be found again. But if a city can vanish underwater, how many more lie waiting under the sands? Egypt's deserts may look empty, but they are far from silent. In recent years, satellite technology has revealed faint outlines beneath the dunes, geometric shapes, lost roads, entire networks that hint at forgotten settlements. What could be buried there? Ancient temples? Palaces of forgotten rulers? Or perhaps something that challenges everything we thought we knew about history? The sands of Egypt are like a veil, covering mysteries that are almost within reach yet forever just beyond our grasp. Every grain of sand is a keeper of secrets, and the more we uncover, the more questions we face. Could there be civilizations we have never even imagined? Cultures that rose and fell long before Egypt's golden age, leaving only whispers in the desert winds? The truth is, Egypt is not just a land of monuments, it is a land of layers. Civilizations piled upon civilizations, each buried under the weight of time. The Nile gave life, but the desert took it away. And somewhere beneath those endless dunes lies a forgotten world, waiting for us to listen. The deeper we look beneath the sands, the more we realize that Egypt's history is not a straight line but a labyrinth of forgotten paths. Some are well lit by discoveries, while others remain in total darkness, waiting for the right moment to emerge. Archaeologists spend lifetimes brushing away dust, piecing together fragments, and hoping that one day a new doorway into the past will open. And when it does, it can change everything. Take the Fayum Oasis, for example. Today it looks like little more than a fertile patch surrounded by desert, but beneath its soil lies evidence of Egypt's earliest farmers, people who lived almost 8,000 years ago. They tamed the land long before the pharaohs, building canals, planting crops, and leaving behind traces of their daily lives. Their pottery and tools speak of a society beginning to organize itself, a society standing at the edge of transformation. Without them, the great civilizations that followed may never have existed. Yet they are almost forgotten, buried under centuries of shifting sand and neglect. And then there are the desert cemeteries. In places where you would expect only lifeless dunes, archaeologists have uncovered graves stretching back thousands of years. Some of these burials predate the pyramids by millennia, revealing entire communities that once thrived where today only silence reigns. Imagine uncovering a skeleton, preserved beneath the sand, still clutching the simple tools of life. These are not pharaohs or kings, not names carved into stone, but ordinary people who laughed, loved, and struggled, people whose existence nearly vanished from memory until the desert surrendered them once more. But the desert doesn't just hide people. It hides whole temples. One of the most astonishing discoveries came in 1817, when Italian explorer Giovanni Belzoni uncovered the temple of Abu Simbel, buried almost completely beneath sand. For centuries, only the tops of the statues peeked above the dunes, as if the gods themselves were gasping for breath, refusing to be forgotten. When the sand was cleared away, what emerged was breathtaking, colossal figures of Ramses II, carved straight into the mountainside, staring across the desert as though they had been waiting for us to find them again. Yet even with such discoveries, there is always the sense that we have only scratched the surface. Consider the vast western desert, stretching endlessly across Egypt. Beneath its desolate expanse lie clues to ancient caravan routes, lost fortresses, and even vanished lakes. Archaeologists believe that long before the Nile was Egypt's lifeline, these deserts may have been crisscrossed by thriving networks of people moving goods and ideas. The sand erases the footprints, but the echoes remain. What secrets might still sleep beneath those dunes? Technology has begun to pull back the curtain. Using satellite imagery, scientists can now scan beneath the desert's surface, revealing patterns invisible to the naked eye. In 2011, a team led by Dr. Sarah Parkak identified what could be as many as 17 buried pyramids, thousands of ancient settlements, and hundreds of tombs, all hidden beneath the sands, waiting to be uncovered. If even a fraction of these are confirmed, it would rewrite everything we thought we knew about Egypt's ancient world. The desert may be barren, but beneath it lies a map of lost civilizations stretching far beyond what we ever imagined. It makes you wonder, how many forgotten cities are still waiting? How many names, stories, and lives have been swallowed whole, their memory erased but their presence still lingering in the ground beneath us? And sometimes, discoveries appear where we least expect them. In the year 2000, near the Bahariya Oasis, archaeologists stumbled upon what would come to be known as the Valley of the Golden Mummies. Hidden beneath the sand lay a necropolis stretching as far as the eye could see, containing thousands of mummies from the Greco-Roman period of Egypt. Many were covered in gilded masks, their faces staring back at us from 2,000 years ago. Entire families had been entombed, their lives frozen in time, and for centuries no one knew they were there. It is discoveries like these that remind us Egypt's sands are not empty at all, they are overflowing with ghosts of the past. And yet, despite all these breathtaking finds, archaeologists believe the majority of Egypt's treasures remain undiscovered. The desert is vast, and every dune could be hiding something extraordinary. Just imagine, you could be walking over a buried temple, a forgotten village, or even a lost civilization that has not been seen in thousands of years. The sands are patient. They wait. And when the time is right, they reveal just enough to remind us of their power. The sands of Egypt have a way of deceiving us. On the surface, they look endless and lifeless, stretching toward the horizon in golden waves. But beneath them lies something far stranger, far more mysterious. It is almost as if the desert itself is a living thing, a guardian that decides what to reveal and what to hide. One moment, it buries history so completely that even the memory of a place vanishes. And the next, it allows a small piece to resurface, a shard of pottery, a fragment of stone, a carved symbol, a whisper from a forgotten world. One of the most haunting examples of this is the city of Tanis. For centuries, Tanis was the capital of northern Egypt, a city filled with temples, obelisks, and palaces. Yet today, most people have never even heard its name. Why? Because Tanis was swallowed by the Nile and then by the sands, its monuments scattered and reused in other places, its once glorious streets reduced to ruins. When archaeologists began exploring the site in the 19th and 20th centuries, they realized they were standing above what was once one of Egypt's greatest cities, now barely more than broken stones and shattered memories. The thought is chilling. If a mighty capital like Tanis can be forgotten, how many smaller cities have vanished completely, erased from history without a trace? And then there is Amarna, the city built by Pharaoh Akhenaten, a man who tried to change Egypt forever. He abandoned the old gods, declared the sun itself to be the one true deity, and built an entirely new city in the desert to honor his vision. For a brief moment, Amarna thrived, filled with palaces, gardens, and art unlike anything Egypt had seen before. But after Akhenaten's death, the city was abandoned, deliberately erased by his successors who wanted to bury his memory. Sand swept across the empty streets, covering walls decorated with strange, haunting images of the royal family. For more than 3,000 years, Amarna lay silent, until modern excavations uncovered it again. Walking its ruins today feels eerie, like stepping into the dream of a man who defied the gods and lost. But Amarna is only one city among many. Egypt's deserts are dotted with similar ruins, each with its own story of rise, glory, and disappearance. The sands keep them hidden, sometimes for centuries, sometimes forever. Every time archaeologists uncover a new site, it feels less like discovery and more like a conversation with the past. The stones may be broken, the walls may be crumbling, but they still whisper their stories if you know how to listen. And the whispers grow louder the deeper you go into the desert. Far to the west, in the remote Siwa oasis, legends speak of the lost army of Cambyses. According to ancient Greek historian Herodotus, an entire Persian army of 50,000 men marched into the desert in the 6th century BC, only to vanish without a trace. Some say they were swallowed by a massive sandstorm, buried alive in dunes that shifted and collapsed around them. Others claim they were ambushed and destroyed, their remains scattered by time. To this day, no one has ever found clear evidence of the lost army. But think about it, somewhere out there, beneath the sands, may lie the remains of thousands of soldiers, their armor and weapons still waiting to be uncovered. If that story were ever proven true, it would be one of the most dramatic discoveries in history. The desert also hides smaller, more personal stories. In tombs long forgotten, archaeologists sometimes find letters, carvings, or paintings that reveal the daily lives of people who lived thousands of years ago. A letter from a worker complaining about rations. A painting of a family sharing food. A carving of a farmer guiding his cattle. These fragments remind us that history is not just about kings and monuments. It is about ordinary people whose names we will never know. People who lived and died beneath the same sun, whose memories are now buried beneath sand. Their lives mattered, even if history nearly erased them. The more we learn about what lies beneath, the more we realize how fragile memory truly is. Civilization is not as permanent as we imagine. Whole cities, whole cultures, can disappear in a blink of history's eye. Egypt shows us this better than almost any place on Earth. We look at the pyramids and think of permanence, yet even they were nearly lost, buried in sand up to their shoulders, forgotten until later generations dug them out again. The desert does not care about human greatness. It covers pharaohs and peasants alike, leveling them into silence. And yet, there is something deeply poetic about this. Because while the desert hides, it also preserves. Wooden boats buried beside pyramids, their planks still intact after thousands of years. Papyrus scrolls so delicate they would have crumbled anywhere else, yet here they survived. Even human bodies, mummified by the dry air, their faces still gazing upward as though time never passed. Egypt's sands may erase, but they also protect, keeping memories intact until the moment we are ready to find them again. That is why every discovery feels so breathtaking. It is not just about uncovering objects, it is about reconnecting with a world that was thought to be gone forever. Each artifact is a voice returned to us, each tomb a story reopened. Imagine the feeling of being the first person in thousands of years to open a sealed chamber, the air inside untouched since the day it was closed. Imagine seeing colors painted on walls so vivid they look freshly made, even though they were created 3,000 years ago. That shock of connection across time is what makes Egypt's buried past so extraordinary. And still, the question lingers. If this is what we've already found, what remains hidden? We may never know the full answer. The desert is too vast, time is too deep, and our tools are still limited. But perhaps that is part of the mystery, the idea that some worlds will always remain forgotten, resting quietly beneath the sands, their stories untold. For a moment, imagine yourself standing on a dune at night. The sky is filled with stars, the air is cool, and all around you lies silence. Beneath your feet, buried in darkness, are the remains of lives lived thousands of years ago. You cannot see them, but they are there, whole cities, forgotten temples, lost armies, silent mummies waiting to be found. Doesn't that thought make you wonder what other worlds remain hidden, not just in Egypt, but across the earth? I want to ask you something. If you could choose only one mystery beneath Egypt's sands to be uncovered in your lifetime, a lost city, a buried temple, or even the vanished army of Cambyses, which would you want it to be, and why? Share your answer in the comments below, because your curiosity is part of this journey too. There's a strange irony about Egypt's deserts. The more they bury, the more they seem to spark our imagination. Every dune could be hiding something, every grain of sand guarding a secret. And often, the line between history and legend becomes blurred. Some mysteries are grounded in stone and bone, while others drift somewhere between fact and myth. Yet in Egypt, even myths demand to be taken seriously because time and again, stories once thought impossible have turned out to be true. Take the legend of Zep-Tepi, the so-called first time. Ancient Egyptians spoke of an age before dynasties, before pharaohs, when gods walked the earth and founded the very principles of civilization. To us, it sounds like mythology, a story carved into temple walls to explain the origins of order. But when archaeologists uncover evidence of cultures older than we ever expected, one cannot help but wonder, was Zep-Tepi purely a myth, or could it echo memories of a real forgotten age, buried beneath the sands? Even the pyramids themselves fuel these questions. For centuries, scholars assumed they told the whole story of ancient Egypt's architectural genius. Yet discoveries like the Step Pyramid of Djoser, the earliest attempt at monumental stone building, hint that it was not an isolated experiment. What if other, earlier attempts remain hidden beneath the desert? Some researchers believe that ruins of primitive, half-collapsed structures, perhaps the training grounds for pyramid builders, still lie buried. If uncovered, they could reveal an entirely new chapter of how Egypt learned to reach for the heavens. And then there are the strange anomalies seen from the sky. With satellite imagery and infrared scanning, patterns have been detected beneath the sand along, straight lines and rectangular shapes stretching across areas that look barren to the naked eye. Some believe they are lost roads connecting settlements, others think they are the faint outlines of entire cities. In 2011, when one of these scans revealed what looked like buried pyramids, the world was stunned. While not all have been confirmed, the technology suggests something extraordinary. The desert is filled with invisible maps of forgotten worlds, waiting to be drawn again. But perhaps the most unsettling discoveries are those that remind us how fragile even the greatest civilizations can be. Consider the lost temples of Nubia. For centuries, they stood at Egypt's southern frontier, towering monuments covered in hieroglyphs, built to honor gods and pharaohs. When the Aswan High Dam was built in the 1960s, the rising waters of Lake Nasser threatened to drown them forever. International teams rushed to cut and relocate temples like Abu Simbel, saving them from destruction. Yet dozens of others remain underwater, their stones silent, their stories unreachable. The desert may bury history, but sometimes we bury it ourselves. And then, of course, there are the discoveries that come not from sand but from beneath the Nile itself. Ancient papyri tell of hidden shrines and sacred relics buried along the river's edge. One such treasure was the city of Heracleion, long dismissed as myth until divers stumbled upon its ruins beneath the sea. If a city that size could vanish so completely, imagine what else might be hiding under waterlogged sands along the Nile's course. Could there be entire temples drowned and forgotten, their columns lying silently beneath the mud? The truth is, Egypt is far from fully explored. For every tomb opened, thousands remain sealed. For every city rediscovered, dozens lie in silence. The sands have covered over 5,000 years of history, but perhaps even more chilling is the thought that there may be histories older than Egypt itself. Who lived in these deserts before the pharaohs carved their names into stone? Who built the first shrines, the first settlements, the first pathways along the Nile? Were they forgotten ancestors of the Egyptians we know, or entirely different cultures erased without a trace? The sands do not answer. They wait, patiently, until we dig just deep enough. And when they do give up a secret, it often comes with a shock, because what emerges rarely fits neatly into the stories we thought we understood. Egypt is not simply the land of the pyramids and the pharaohs. It is a vast palimpsest, a scroll written and rewritten across millennia, with each layer partly erasing the one beneath it. And somewhere under the deepest layers, beneath dunes that have stood undisturbed for thousands of years, lies a forgotten world that may never fully reveal itself. Every artifact uncovered, a shard of pottery, a painted mask, a collapsed wall, is more than just an object. It is proof that lives once filled these deserts, that laughter, ritual, and hope echoed here before the silence of sand took over. And with every new discovery, we are reminded that history is fragile. It can vanish as easily as a footprint in the wind. Perhaps that is the greatest lesson the sands of Egypt have to offer us, that even the mightiest civilizations can be forgotten, and that memory itself is always at risk of being buried. So the next time you picture Egypt, don't just think of the pyramids glowing at sunset or the Sphinx gazing across the desert. Think of what lies beneath. Think of the invisible cities, the vanished armies, the silent tombs, and the voices still waiting to be heard. Because beneath Egypt's sands lies not just one forgotten world, but many, and their stories are still unfolding. The sands of Egypt are more than just a backdrop to history. They are both destroyers and guardians, erasers and storytellers. For thousands of years, they have swallowed cities, armies, and temples, hiding them from the eyes of the world. And yet, they have also preserved them, protecting fragile artifacts that would have turned to dust anywhere else. The desert is not lifeless, it is alive with memory. Every dune is a library, every grain a page, every silence a story still untold. We often imagine history as something permanent, something carved in stone, but Egypt reminds us that permanence is an illusion. Think about Heracleion, the once great city that thrived at the mouth of the Nile. For centuries it bustled with merchants, sailors, and priests, only to vanish beneath the waves, forgotten for more than 1,000 years. Today, divers swim through its drowned streets, brushing sand from statues that once towered above the harbor. The city lived, it thrived, and then it disappeared. If such a place could vanish so completely, how many others are still waiting to be found? The same is true on land. Amarna, Tanis, and countless unnamed villages all gone, reduced to ruins beneath layers of dust. Imagine walking across the desert today. You see only sand and emptiness, but beneath your feet may lie a temple that once rang with hymns, or a marketplace filled with voices, or a palace where a forgotten ruler once dreamed of immortality. The desert covers everything in silence, but silence is not absence. Silence is only waiting. And perhaps that is what draws us so deeply to Egypt's buried worlds, the idea that what we know is only a fragment of the truth. The pyramids, the Sphinx, the tombs in the Valley of the Kings, they are breathtaking, but they are not the full story. They are the surface. Beneath them lies a tapestry far older, far stranger, and far less understood. Consider this: the Sahara Desert itself was once green. Thousands of years ago, it bloomed with grasslands, lakes, and rivers. Ancient rock art shows hunters chasing giraffes, cattle grazing, families living in places we now consider uninhabitable. As the climate changed, the green Sahara faded, leaving behind a desert that swallowed these cultures whole. Yet scattered remains tell us that people lived here long before dynasties rose along the Nile. Their worlds were erased, but their echoes remain, faint and haunting. Could these have been the ancestors of the Egyptians, or entirely different civilizations lost to time? The sand keeps its secret. Technology is beginning to pierce that veil. Satellites orbiting far above Earth have detected patterns beneath the desert, lines, shapes, and structures invisible from the ground. Archaeologists on the ground are finding tombs, settlements, and even possible pyramids that no one suspected were there. It feels almost like the desert is being X-rayed, its invisible map slowly revealed. And yet, for every discovery we make, the mystery only deepens. Because the more we find, the more we realize how much is still missing. Some believe Egypt hides entire civilizations that have yet to be uncovered. Not just villages or isolated cities, but whole cultures erased before the first hieroglyph was ever carved. If that were true, it would mean that Egypt's known history, the pharaohs, the pyramids, the golden treasures, is only the middle chapter of a much larger book. The opening chapters remain hidden, buried beneath the sands, waiting for us to turn the page. But perhaps the most haunting truth of all is this: not everything will ever be found. Some cities are buried too deep. Some temples were destroyed beyond recognition. Some armies, like the one Herodotus described, may lie scattered and shattered, impossible to piece together. The sands are patient, but they are also merciless. For every discovery, there will be countless stories lost forever. And that is the paradox of Egypt: it gives just enough to tantalize us, but never enough to satisfy us completely. Still, the power of Egypt's forgotten worlds lies not only in what we uncover but in what they make us feel. Awe, because we realize how grand and fragile civilizations can be. Curiosity, because the unknown pulls at us like gravity. Shock, because even the greatest monuments of humanity can vanish overnight. And wonder, because each discovery is a reminder that history is not behind us, it is beneath us, around us, and still waiting to be found. So the next time you see a picture of the pyramids, imagine what lies beneath the sands beyond them. Imagine the footsteps of forgotten workers, the laughter of children in lost villages, the prayers whispered in temples now reduced to rubble. Imagine the armies swallowed whole, their shields and swords still lying in silence beneath dunes that no one has touched for millennia. Egypt is not just a land of monuments, it is a land of memories, many of them still buried, many of them still waiting to echo back into the present. And maybe that is the real magic of Egypt. Not just the treasures, not just the tombs, but the reminder that history is fragile, fleeting, and endlessly mysterious. We chase after it, knowing we will never catch it fully, and yet the chase itself fills us with meaning. The forgotten world beneath the sands may never be uncovered completely, but its presence changes us. It makes us wonder about our own civilizations, our own permanence. One day, thousands of years from now, what will remain of us? What will be buried beneath the sands of our time? That is why Egypt matters. Not just because of its pharaohs and pyramids, but because it forces us to confront the greatest truth of all: nothing lasts forever. And yet, through memory, through discovery, through stories like this one, we keep the echoes alive. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the forgotten worlds of Egypt. If this story has sparked your curiosity, if it has made you feel awe, wonder, or even just a spark of imagination, then share it with someone else who loves mysteries as much as you do. And if you want to keep exploring the hidden corners of our world, make sure to like this video, share it, and subscribe to World's Echoes. Because here, the past is never truly gone, it only waits for us to listen.